This is Matt Barnaby, and you're listening to Sheriff's Podcast. Woo!
Welcome, everybody, to a milestone episode of The Sheriff. Guys, we have reached number 50. That's right, number 50, guys, which is going to be, without further ado, Mr. Sandy McCarthy. But before I introduce Mr. Sandy McCarthy, Mr. Kyle Warner, my co-host, how are you feeling, my friend, and how do you feel about big number 50?
We made it to 50. I'm feeling older every episode that goes by. But I'll tell you what, we got Sandy McCarthy on today, and I'm absolutely pumped for this episode. I'm going to be honest with all of the listeners here. This is the first time I've been a little bit nervous to interview a guy since my first ever interview. And let's just get this thing on the roll here, boys.
Kyle, I feel you, man. I'm excited too. And I want the listeners to know the reason why we pick Sandy McCarthy as our milestone episode. I'll give my reasons. My reasons is this guy, there's three words that are themes to this show for me. Talented, consistent, and extremely tough. And that's what Sandy McCarthy is, plain and simple. I mean, in my opinion, he had the heavyweight crown for multiple seasons, but ladies and gentlemen, this guy is a phenomenal hockey player too. I've called Darren McCarty a hybrid tough guy. Sandy McCarthy is a bigger version, a bigger hybrid tough guy, in my opinion. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to bring him in right now. Mr. Sandy McCarthy, how are you doing, my friend?
Good, guys. Good. You guys are way too kind there. I really appreciate being part of number 50 with you guys here.
No problem at all, man. We're glad that you're on.
Sorry, man. The cat just bit my hand as I was talking. I got a little kitten here. It's running around. So, yeah, it's this is kind of one of my first times I've done one of these. So it's we'll have to take her how she goes and roll off the hip, right?
Yeah, for sure, Sandy. And you know what, man? We're just looking to have a good time. Me and Kyle get a chance to talk to one of our idols, so it's really, really fun for us. But to be honest with you, Sandy, what I would really like to do is I would really like to tell your story, brother. I really want to tell the young Sandy McCarthy story from the beginning, right? And I know that you were technically born in Toronto, it says in your hockey DB, but when you were very young, you guys moved out to Barrie. Now, excuse me, how young was that, Sandy?
Well, people ask that question where I was born. I always say I was made in Woodstock, New Brunswick, and born in Toronto. And so I was born just after we moved to Toronto, and then we moved up to Barrie when I was about 3 or 4 years old. So I ended up starting my my hockey days in the Barrie area in a little town called Thornton. And that's those were the first few days for me.
Well, those were the first few days, and like, sorry, Sandy, go ahead.
And then. Yeah, sorry. From that point, I'm really fighting this cat off. It's like it just had a nap and it's like biting my toes and crap. So I'm going to try and hold a straight face as I talk. But, yeah.
Does the cat realize it's Sandy McCarthy that it's messing with?
It's like a young child, right? It doesn't have any clue. It's just the kitten, Back in those days, I started playing hockey when I was 3 years old. So as soon as we moved out from Toronto, I started playing, and because I wanted to play at 3, and they didn't have a league for 3-year-olds, but then when they brought me in to register me, they said, "Oh, he's not 3; he looks like he's 6 or 7." So they had no problem letting me play because I was a lot bigger than most of the kids my age. So that was the first start to my hockey days, right? When I was 3, so. I guess I don't really remember those days, but my mom and dad used to always say they said I used to just skate as fast as I could down the ice and use the boards to stop, right? So nothing changed.
Now, Sandy, I read that you guys lived, what was it, right across the street from an arena, or on the same street, something very close in distance.
Yeah, as a teenager, we lived across the street. We moved to Barrie when I was about 12, and I started in the Barrie Minor Hockey Association around then. And I lived right across the street from a rink. I could walk there. I was 2 minutes, have my bag and stick, and away I went. Right, and I used to watch a lot of hockey. I used to play there a lot. I used to skate when I could, when I got extra ice time there. It was a great place for me, and it was always a really like a peaceful place, right? It was my place. It was my spot out on the ice. Nobody could bug me. Nobody could get in my head. And that was when I started in the AAA loops and stuff. So.
No, Sandy, I obviously from experience, as you could see from my appearance that I'm a mixed biracial kid. Like I come from a mixed family.
Yep.
And I read that you were half Black and half First Nations, which I think is really, really cool. I happen to be, my father is Black and my mother's of Irish descent, but I've always been very, very fond of the culture where you come from. What was it? Were you guys like following like the culture growing up? Like what was that like growing up?
Well, my father's, I was always told from him, he's Black Irish. My mother's from Newfoundland. So she has some Native in her genes, and my dad also has some Native in his genes, which we've come to find out is Maliseet, which over the years you don't when you get older, it kind of makes more sense, and it means a lot more to you to know where you come from. And I wanted all my kids to know too, so we did some DNA tests, and we have enough native ancestry to have native status. So maybe that can help my kids somewhere along the way. And as for growing up, I grew up in a Black family. My mother was white, my father was Black. When we came out east, we had Black family meals, and I guess you don't understand that unless you've had one. More or less go there and fill your plate, and don't be shy. You don't make a mountain, you won't get any more, right? So that was kind of my childhood. My mother was the type of lady that grew up, cutting her meat on the kitchen floor from what Dad brought in from hunting. So my mother was quite a unique woman, right?
For sure.
That's fantastic. Now, I want to talk about siblings though with you, Sandy. So like, how many siblings do you have?
Well, I have 2 sisters, one who's passed.
Sorry to hear that.
One who's still alive. It's in St. John's, Newfoundland. I have a brother that lives in Ontario, who's 10 years older than me. He's going to be almost, I guess you guys can do the math on that. I won't give his age up like that.
Yeah.
And I got another brother that's 2 years older than me that lives in Alberta, lives in Calgary. So, my brother was, my 2-year-old brother, Art, he's an engineer out in Calgary, and he's done well for himself, has a great family out there. My brother Curtis, he's been an entrepreneur. He's singing, hunting, fishing, that kind of thing. He's made his way through life like that. My sister was a biologist. She was alive. My oldest sister, she's just done whatever she had to get by, and she's had a good in Newfoundland with their man Nelson out there.
Right on.
So that's my siblings, right?
Yes, of course, and that's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing, Sandy. Now, what I'm really getting at, though, Sandy, is I'm trying to figure out how a man became the toughest guy in the NHL. And you kind of spelt it out for me a little bit there, brother, because you mentioned that you have a brother that has 10 years on you and a brother that is 2 years on you, right? I'm 3 years older than one of my brothers, and he's one of the toughest guys I know. And I know it's because I beat him up so much growing up as a kid because I had those 3 years advantage, right?
Yeah.
Did your brothers toughen you up a bit as you grew up? Did you have that feature?
Well, to expand a little bit more on the toughness in our family and the McCarthys, my dad boxed in the Air Force when he was in the Air Force, and he had offers to box in the Olympics, and was going to turn pro. Around the same time, he started having a family, so he put his energies towards working and having a family, and didn't go and follow his dream, right? So as we got a little bit older, my dad was running boxing gym stuff. So let's just go ahead and say that the McCarthys knew how to punch before they were 5 or 6 years old. It's what we did at the house. My dad always had boxing on or hockey on. And he lived every punch of a boxing match when he watched it. So it was, me and my brother would get at it. We'd put on the show in front of him and have our wrestling matches on the, in the living room floor or the basement floor, wherever we got at it, right? So I definitely give kudos to my older brothers for my toughness, because I was not the toughest one growing up. That's for sure. And I took the lumps to prove it. But as I got a little older, they started realizing that I had real man strength and they better smarten up. So they got the point in a hurry when I got into my 20s. They just understood.
Well, learning how to punch before 5, let me tell you something. It showed later on in your life. You definitely knew how to throw a punch.
So Sandy, so that's I'm intrigued by this. This is incredible. So your father was offered to be boxing in the Olympics. Like, so he was that elite of a boxer, and he lived it out throughout his life. He would watch it on TV. You guys would reenact stuff to impress him. Now you and your two brothers. So you guys are all boxers, like legit boxers, correct?
Yeah, both of my brothers have had fights. I never got in the ring, but both of my brothers had fights. My oldest brother was a Golden Gloves. My dad was Golden Gloves growing up. I'm not even sure. I think my brother Artie might even be Golden Gloves too. So we never really talked about that stuff. We just knew. I just knew he was really fast, and I had to be faster.
Now, Sandy, I know you can throw with both hands very well, but you're right-handed though, right?
I'm a lefty, actually. I grew up left-handed. I do everything left-handed. My dad switched me over to start to be faster with my right side, but he always taught me is get the stun and then switch to your power right after you hit him with your right, go to your left, right? So that's what my dad always taught me. So I'd always try and switch when I felt I got a good right in. And then over the course of fights, you know how fights are, right? You just do and take whatever's there at the time, and you don't want to get hurt. You don't want to hurt anybody, but you want to win the fight, right? You know what I mean?
That's right. But Sandy, if you have tools, I thought you were right-handed, my friend. So obviously you got a really good right-hand punch. You're telling me you're a lefty, right? So you're left-handed, but you shoot right though, right, Sandy?
Yeah, but I'm left-handed dominant with everything else I do. I've always tested stronger on my left side, and I never really tagged too many guys with my left, but when I did, they knew it. Right?
Yeah, they did.
I'm sure they felt the right too, for the record.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I find this is even more interesting, Sandy. Like this is incredible. Thank you for sharing all the boxing stuff, because that makes a lot of minds make sense now of how Sandy McCarthy got to that point, man, and I appreciate you telling me that. Now, as far as the hockey growing up, though, Sandy, like you were a very, very good hockey player. Like I can't even wait to get into the junior numbers. Okay, but growing up as a hockey player, you were always the biggest guy on your team.
Yeah, I was always real tall. Just when I was born, I guess I was 13 pounds, 24 inches or something like that. And, I just kept growing till I was about 16 and then I stopped.
So you were the size you were in the NHL when you were 16?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I weighed into my first camp in the Q, I was 278 pounds, 6'4".
God damn.
278 pounds, Sandy. Okay.
278 pounds. Anyways, let's
wait
go
a
back.
second
We'll
here.
go back.
Sorry. Go ahead, Sandy. What was that?
No. I thought we'll go back to what we were talking about there. Sorry, I totally lost track.
Hey, Sandy, no sorries, buddy. We're on the edge of our seat listening to you, buddy. So any stories you tell us, we want to hear it. Trust me, buddy. This is amazing stuff here, bud. So the reason why I was asking that, Sandy, is because a guy your size is obviously, especially in the era that you grew up in, is expected to do all the rough stuff, is expected to be the guy. But you're also an incredible hockey player, right? So I just find it interesting to see how you dealt with that as a kid. Like, were you kind of protected a little bit, where guys would jump in if guys were challenging you just because you could play so well?
No, nobody jumped in for me. That's not how it went for me, and I didn't need nobody to jump in for me.
No.
When I was a kid, backtrack there from 16 to about 10 or 11.
Yeah.
My mom had to have a talk with me one day, and she said, "Listen, I'll let you fight once a year, but if you do it more than that, we're gonna have trouble at home." And I listened to my mom, so I made sure I picked it, and I did it once a year from that age group right on. And then as I got into junior, my first year junior at 15, it was on, right? I was fighting 20-year-olds at 15. So
yeah.
But then again, I was 6'4", 210, right? At 15.
Yeah. Now, because you just brought her up, Sandy, this is always pretty interesting, like to get the responses, just because I know how my mom dealt with it, right? But how in the beginning, this time right now, 16-year-old Sandy McCarthy, first year junior, how did Mrs. McCarthy handle her son bare knuckle boxing on ice at 16? How did she handle that?
Well, there's other things that happened before then that we can talk about maybe another time. But if that was all I was doing at that time, she was real happy about it, put it that way. So if that's all.
Fair enough.
All the trouble I was getting, she was good with that. And that out of trouble, and I kept focused on it, right? So that was my deal. I said, I went and I acted up when I played hockey. Everybody loved me for it, and I never got in trouble for it. So I kept my, let's say, my show on the road per se, right? Anytime it was hockey time, it was like, okay, let's go. I can let it all out here, right? So, she was, not that she encourages, well, my mom was a little bit wild, so yeah, maybe she did encourage a little bit of violence, but that's how it was back then, right? Dad was a boxer, my mom was tough as nails. It was I had no choice. It was like, you either stand up and fight and go and do what you got to do, or you fall by the wayside. And I wasn't falling by the wayside, so I always did what I had to do. And like I said, I put my mom and dad through a lot of torturous situations growing up. So for them to see me out there just throwing knuckles on the ice, they were pretty happy to see that.
And that's an incredible way to explain it. What I heard there, though, Sandy, was that you had incredible support in that area because your mom was such a gamer, is such a gamer, right? I empathize with you because I'm telling you, man, our mothers are probably so similar. You know, my mom was like, she just tried to prepare me as best as possible. What can we do to not get hurt? How can you prepare the best for this? So she kind of got on that board. Seems like your mom may have been this similar way.
Yeah, well, there was no getting hurt. There was just go do it, right?
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
You don't realize you're hurt till you hit your age that you're at now, right? It's like maybe I should have taken more care of a few things here and there. But, that's how it is. And you never regret it. That's for sure.
All right, so Sandy, now we got to get some talk in here, okay, about this major junior career of yours, okay? Because, man, Kyle, our show's about awareness. Usually the awareness is like charitable and mental health and stuff. People need to be aware of this, Mr. Sandy McCarthy. Okay, first of all, your first year junior, you break into the league and you do extremely well numbers wise. You're fighting everyone in the league. You're beating most guys in the league, but you're also putting up numbers, my friend. What happens the second year? You're like, I'm assuming your draft year, you double your numbers, you double your goals, you double your assists, and I'm assuming that you were probably just abusing twice as many people in the fisticuffs as well. But wait, Sandy, we're not done here, man. Because your third season, you doubled your goals, you doubled your assists. No, excuse me, you didn't double your points. You got better than that. You had 90 points. 90 points. Your last year junior, you're a 100-point man. To me, a guy that walked into the league and became the toughest guy, but is a 100-point man, that is extremely special. You had a pretty good situation on that team in Laval, or what, man?
Yeah, it was, I don't know if you've heard the stories about that team back in the day, but that team was pretty special, right? That was probably the best owners in junior hockey back at that time. I met with them when I was 16 in a little dark alley meeting, and they told me something, and I said, you come through with what you say, you got me, I'll be there for sure. I'll come play for you guys. They were the most loyal, honest guys that I worked with in hockey at that point. It was the Morissette brothers, right? They come through with it. They told me if I wouldn't come and played for them, I would play third line, and I would play. And I told them, I said, you let me play, and I'll fight anybody, anytime, and I'll do whatever it takes. But you just got to play me. So, as it went, the team I stepped into was a President's Cup team, right? Like, it was a championship. But you know what? They held to their words, and they kept me playing, and I felt part of it. And the next year, it just kind of blossomed. I felt real comfortable there and accepted as a human. And, when you get those things all pushing in a positive direction, then positive things happen, right? Then the last year, I just was overwhelmed with confidence, right, from coming back from pro camp and, all that stuff, right? It was confidence coming out my arse, right? It was crazy. Because I was so much bigger and stronger, I felt than other guys. Fighting guys in junior, there's only a couple of guys that would weigh up to you, and there's a couple of guys that were as big. Like, for the most part, you were the giants. And me and Gino Ojic played on a line together, right? My first year.
Oh, Jesus!
What?
Tortured people. We tortured people. Yeah. We made sure. When people came into the House of Pain, that's what we named the rink there when we were playing, that if they wanted to fight one of us, they weren't getting out without fighting both of us. So how did, you think of some of the guys in the league that were fighting back then coming into our rink, like a Matthew Barnaby back then, right? Like, he's 150 pounds back in those days, and I'm like 250, right? You know, and he's coming after me wanting to fight me, right? But it's like, Jesus, the kid's like, you know, he just kept coming and kept coming. I think I knocked him down 3 times. He jumped back up, kept fighting. And it's like, you know, but thinking about that, if you're another guy coming into that team or into that rink, it's like, holy crap, man. You know, it's not a settling feeling because you know that there's been blood spurred in that rink many times, right? You know, I think a lot of people think that the senior team named that rink the House of Pain, but we named it that year with me and Gino, that's for sure. We handed out a few knuckle sandwiches in those days, that's for sure. But anyways, you know, it's being comfortable when you're playing there, when you're playing and you're comfortable and feel like you belong there, and that's why I blossomed every year. I knew that like I wanted to play hockey for a living, and I just had drive. I didn't know where I was going to go, but I had the drive to push, you know. My first year I had a coach in Pauline Bordelot, which was a great coach for me at the time because he was right into the fitness stuff, and he used to make me come put a garbage bag on and do 5K runs with him, right? And he's like 170 pounds. I'm sitting there 270 trying to keep up with him, but I think he kind of showed me because I didn't really know. I had no idea, right? It was just put my skates on, go to the rink. So he kind of showed me that there's more to it, right? And once I started training a little bit, I think that's one of the reasons why my game got better too, you know, because I got some actual muscle on the big frame that I was given, right?
Yeah. So Sandy, so your draft year was the year that you were a 20-goal man. You had 40 points, 300 penalty minutes, beating everybody up. Okay. So now you get drafted. You get drafted by the Calgary Flames. Okay. As a Canadian, that's pretty cool, especially the fact that they just came off winning a Stanley Cup the year before that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. 2 years before. I think they won in
2 years.
89.
Okay.
And I got drafted in 91, right? Yeah, that was, you know, that was all like walking through a dream, right? You know, it still just felt like that. And it was a special moment for myself and my family that draft day. I was told I was going to be drafted by another team in the second round, and it didn't come to pass. We'll see what happens. My dad had a feeling. He said to me, he's had a feeling that Calgary was going to take me. I said to him, well, why do you say that? What gives you that feeling, right, Dad? You know, like, what did you see? But I guess the day I showed up in the lobby at the hotel, the GM from Calgary, Doug Risebrough, was eyeballing me up and down as I walked in and checked in. And I guess my dad noticed that, and then he noticed it again as I was coming down and going to the draft, and he thought that there was interest there, right? So, you know, lo and behold, he was right, because they did take me, and man, it was a special day.
Now, where was the draft? Or at that time, did they have the drafts like how they did like in the past 10, 15 years, Sandy? Like, was it in a specific city?
Yeah, it was in Buffalo, in the old auditorium that year. Yeah.
Did you go to it?
Here's a good story about that day. Yeah, here's a good story about that day. My first day walking in, like, okay, I'm not ranked by Central Scouting. My agent says I got to be at the draft. He says someone's going to draft me. So, all right, I show up to the draft. I get to the rink. The first thing I see at the rink is about a 15-pound rat. And it's walking in circles in the concourse. And I'm like, I look at my dad and I'm like, welcome to the NHL, Dad. He walked around and ran off under the garbage bin there. But it was a pretty funny moment, right? I'll always remember that one.
So Sandy, you're saying that Central Scouting didn't have you rated for your draft?
No, I wasn't rated that year, no, because they had it where it worked out. That was an underage, I guess, an underage draft. I had to be drafted in the first 3 rounds. So if I wasn't rated in the first 3 rounds, then I probably wasn't rated for that reason. But I always looked at that stuff as, okay, well, they don't have me here. I'll make them pay.
Yeah.
You know?
So
there's always like motivation for me anytime that people overlook me or people look down on me like that. Right?
52nd overall, though, my friend.
Yeah.
right? That's a pretty high pick, Sandy. You guys
Yeah,
must
it's a
have
good
been
number,
so
right?
happy.
Oh yeah, I was. Yeah, I remember that. I don't remember all the days in the career, but I remember those days there pretty clearly, and family was pretty happy that day. It was. I guess now you look back, it gives you joy to make your family that happy for some of your achievements, right?
Now, did everyone? You guys drove down to Buffalo, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I had my whole family there. Yeah, my whole family was there because we were all in Barrie right at that time, so we all
Yeah.
lived there. It was only a short drive, so. Yeah.
And then did you guys celebrate in Buffalo, or did you take it back to Barrie for the party?
No, we would have wanted to go back to Barrie. Yeah, one of us dumbasses would have probably tried to drive, so it was better we just drove before I got back and had a good time there, right? So, back then it was different. It was different back then, right? Yeah.
It was a lot different. And so Sandy, so now this is, man, I just can't believe how unique like this is, because the year that you come back for that final season of junior, I mean, you pretty much get 100 points. What were you still 270 at that time?
No, I was like 240 at that
Okay.
time. I come
So
down
you're
in weight
slimming.
because I was in better shape, right? Yeah.
Okay.
So it was, from what I could see, it was like every time I stepped on the scale and I was 3-4 pounds lighter, that next game I had that extra stride to beat the guy to the net, right? And it was like addictive after a while. And then I got to the point there at about 244, 245, and it was like, okay, this is good. And I just maintained that for the year.
So Sandy, who are you playing?
It didn't really. I had some good on that team. Martin Lapointe was on that team. Patrice Brisebois was on that team. Claude Boivin, Serge Engelhardt. We had some good players. Eric Dubois, Eric Raymond, Manuel Fernandez. Manny Fernandez played in Dallas for a while, right? I generally played with Gino my first year, and we rotated centermen, but I ended up sticking with a centerman by the name of Jimmy Birmingham. I don't know if you know Jimmy Birmingham at all.
I've heard the name.
He was my centerman for 2 solid years and almost 3. And he was a big lad. He was 6'4", about 210, but he was always
What a line.
Guy, right? So.
You imagine, Kyle?
What a line. I'm not going on the ice. I can guarantee it.
Now, okay. So now here's some exciting stuff to talk about here, because I've played in that League of North America hockey, the LNAH, the Senior League, whatever you want to call it, Sandy. I've played in that league for multiple years, and yes, people do think that the Laval Chiefs, the Chiefs de Laval, name that rink the House of Pain. And yes, Sandy, the sign is still there, my friend. Did you know that?
Yeah.
You know it's still there, right?
I didn't know that. I haven't been around there in quite a while, but I do know they put the sign up. But if just some of the antics that went on back there is the reason why they called it the House of Pain. Like, I remember seeing frozen lemons coming from the stands at the referees. Remember one game, some of the youngsters of the owners made a body double of one of their other players who was a tough guy and threw a noose up in the rafters and had him hanging from the rafters during the game, right? His dummy.
Jeez.
And I was like,
Jeez,
this is happening, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, coaches fighting, right? Owners fighting, owners assaulting referees, right? It was players fighting with each other. Yeah, it was crazy. It was,
Now,
you look back at it, you think it was normal, but no, it was not normal. But we made it through. That's where we all know back in those days, we're just a little bit fucked up to get through that stuff. You know what I mean? Because nowadays, these kids, they have to go through a month of the shit we went through in those days in the queue. Junior hockey, they would have folded their tent and gone home a long time ago. Would have been over. They would have quit hockey, right? They bought tennis rackets and golf clubs.
I'll tell you what. If
But
I seen that line, the line you were on, what is it? It was the average height, almost 7 foot tall. I think I would quit hockey too.
yeah, well, Gino's 6'3", Jimmy's 6'4", and I was 6'4", right? We're all over 200 pounds. So
Sandy,
it was,
when
it
you
was
played,
our intimidating line. Sorry, go ahead.
oh
Go ahead.
no, please, that your intimidation line. Now,
It was our
in,
intimidation line.
in the recent years, they have protection over the penalty boxes. Did they have it back then? Like, you know what I mean? Like behind the glass, you kind of would come over for at least for the visitors' penalty box. Was it like that back when you played, or was it free reigns for the fans to get to you, the visitors?
Free reign.
Whoa!
And a lot of rinks had short. A lot of rinks had short glass too.
Whoa!
And I remember going into one rink, the old. I don't know if I haven't been there in a while, but the rink in Shawinigan.
Yeah.
There used to be a group of people sit back there, and you'd get into a fight. You go in the box, and you'd be sitting there, and there's always a cloud of smoke in the rink, right? Because you're allowed to smoke in the arenas back there.
Yeah.
As the guys were playing and the game would go, you'd see the clear level of the ice, and then there was a layer of smoke in the top. But as you're sitting in the penalty box, sitting serving your five, it's like you smell something burning, right? You're like, what the hell is that? Reach back and you feel something, and all right, well, whatever, Sitting there again, and you feel it again, right? Well, lo and behold, they're throwing cigarette butts down the back of your neck, right? When I get to the bench, and I got a bunch of cigarette burns right down my neck, and one had gone through. Now I got a little blister on my neck, right? So I made it my point there the next time I went in that rink that I was fighting at least twice, because I like to finish games. Didn't want to fight 3 times.
Oh man, the House of Pain, the original House of Pain.
Hold on 1 minute.
Yeah, no problem, man. That's why we do a recording, right?
Okay. No, we're good. We're good.
Okay, cool.
That's
Sandy, so
my other cat pushed the door open for some reason. Go ahead.
so the Laval Titan, the Titan de Laval, they're the reason for the House of Pain. Correct, Sandy? That you were there.
We called it that. We called it that when we were back there, right? And nobody was called. They didn't call the House of Pain for any other team until then. So
Wow.
I don't think the previous Q team that was the resident there called it the House of Pain. I know that with what went on there, it was named correctly.
Wow. The real news behind the House of Pain. I'm loving it, man. This is exclusive stuff, Sandy.
Yeah.
Now, were you guys packing that arena? Because it's pretty special when it's a full barn.
We used to pack it, and they used to rock the roof in that place.
Whoa.
You know how the old seats that go way up high? We used to pack it. There used to be like 4,500 in there. The playoffs, it was standing room only.
Whoa.
Just jamming every game. And we had our home game Monday nights because all the other stuff going on in Montreal. So Monday nights was Laval was the place to be.
Yeah. And the brothers were the owners, right?
Yeah. The brothers own the hockey team, and I believe one of them owned the rink too.
Wow. And then, so Sandy, this is my last question about it. How did you end up in the Q, brother? Being an Ontario boy, like I don't understand how that happened.
You want the full story?
Absolutely.
You'd love it.
I'll give it to you straight, man. This is how it happened. I was playing junior A in Hawkesbury. I was 16. Okay. And it was back then they called it the Central Junior Hockey League, right? The CJHL. Now it's the CCHL, I guess.
Yeah.
So I was playing there, and my coach at the time, his name was Bob Hartley. Right. So,
really?
Bob mentioned to me before the game that there's some special people in the crowd that came to watch me play, and said, go have a good game and play hard, right? Do what you got to do. So I took that as like the biggest green light flashing ever, right? So I went out and played that game, and I think I ended up running the goalie and knocking the leg off, and one of the defensemen came, and I started into him, and I gave it to him, and another guy grabbed me from behind. I turned around, started fighting him, and I gave it to him, and 3 of us got kicked out, and back the hallways back there in those old rinks, you just walk through the tunnel, and there's usually a tunnel that goes right down to the other rooms, right? The corridor. So as I was walking out the tunnel, I looked down the corridor, and I seen the owners of the team, Laval, standing at the end of the corridor where you could still see the ice surface from that far end. And then in between them, these 2 guys that I just got into it were coming off, and they started chirping me in the hallway. So I said, well, no better time than now. And I just went and finished the job in the hallway with those guys. I went back, I took my gear off, had a shower. So after that game, those boys there from Laval, they were quite interested and wanted me to come play for them, right? I was down for that. So they're honest guys, right? They were honest with me. Everything they said came to fact, right? So
right on. Now, at that time,
I did what I had to do, right?
Oh, 100%, and it worked, right?
Yeah.
Now, at that time, Sandy, there wasn't necessarily an OHL or a Quebec Major Junior League draft, right? It was an invite situation where guys would go to camp. So really, it's whoever kind of recruited, like how the brothers did for you, but you went to the Q, right?
No, there was a draft still. There was draft in the OHL.
Okay, so they had started the OHL draft.
WHL. Yeah,
okay.
I ended up getting drafted by Niagara Falls. I think I got drafted in the 5th or 6th round, I guess. And I had already moved to Quebec and was living there. And just if I could get my release to go play in Laval. And then from there, the team took everything and did what needed to be done. I think there was some fees that were involved for eligibility years and stuff, and they just took care of it. So, but I did get drafted to Niagara Falls in the OHL.
Right on. Now, you got to tell me this, man. Did you win the MVP of your team when you got those 100 points? Like what? I still can't get over the 100 points.
I was voted MVP that year, and I think it was me, Charles. Remember the other guy were voted for league MVP, but they gave it to Charles that year. I think he had 50-something goals, and he's a good player. He deserved it, right? So,
yeah. And
I never looked at that stuff. I played for those things. I just played night, but I had to do. It was a career when stats started mattering and they started meaning the difference between hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? You know what I mean? Or millions of dollars at some points that you started paying attention to that stuff. But until I was probably 23 or 24, I never even paid attention to stuff.
Yeah, because you're the ultimate team guy that's willing to do anything for his teammates, and pretty much you had to play a role that you had to do to stay at that level for as long as you did, Sandy. And I find it incredible how consistent and how long you did what you did, my friend. Like that's what really impresses me. But I want to talk about you breaking in with Calgary, because this was a team that drafted you pretty early. They had really high hopes on you, and you delivered big time. Who was the guy when you first went to camp? Who was the guy for Calgary at that time?
Like, what do you mean? Who was the guy? Like, who was
the tough guy
who did the business?
The tough guy on the team.
Tim Hunter was the guy. Tim Hunter.
Okay, so Timmy was the guy when you were a rookie. Okay, and Timmy has been a special.
Well respected, and classy guy, right? You know, I really respected him when I dealt with Tim. I thought he treated me with respect. He gave me heads up if when needed, and you know what? And didn't take us long to fight in camp either, right? It was like first time we got on the ice with each other. But yeah, I liked Tim Hunter. He was the guy back then. I think they ended up making a trade, and then they got Craig Berube. then when I aged out in junior and went played a year in the minors, they traded Craig. I think they traded him in that Toronto deal. Traded him to Toronto. So I think that's how it played out. But in my mind, it looked like they were making room for me, right, when they made that. So I figured at that point I better get my shit together and do what I need to do here, right?
Well, you only spent the 1 year really, Sandy, right? In the minors. You did really well. Again, you're throwing up 40 points, 250 penalty minutes, taking on all the top guys in the league, really making your mark and proving that you're a heck of a hockey player too, man. Right? So that next season when you went to camp, in your mind, you knew that you were going to make this team out of camp, right?
Well, you know how it goes going to camp, right? You know, your first year drafted depends on where you were. You probably get number 80, whatever. And, you know, next year, once you go higher in the depth pool, you get maybe a number 60 something, right? And then if they feel they've got you penciled in, you get number 15. So that's kind of how it went for me. And when I saw that I had that low number going into camp, I was like, okay, they've got something in mind for me here. I better make it happen here, right? But I didn't. I got called up at the end of the year in Salt Lake that year for Flames playoff run, and I just told myself I wanted to do it to never go back. Right?
Right on. And Sandy, you really progressed into one of the top guys in the National Hockey League. Now, what I'm curious about, Sandy, I've seen you knock down Tony Twist. I've seen you knock down Mr. Bob Probert. I've seen you knock down all the guys that people rate in the top 3 and the top 5, whatever top lists you want to look at. Now, Sean McMorrow says that Sandy McCarthy was at the top of those lists for multiple seasons. I know you're a humble guy, Sandy, but I also know that you're a competitor. You come from a boxing background, a boxing family, and you can't get more competitive than that. Do you believe that you had that title? I know it's a weird question, man. But do you believe that you had that title for at least a few of those seasons? Because you were dominating, my friend.
Yeah, I think there was a few years there, guys were pretty scared of me. I couldn't find a fight for a while there. I think there was a row of fights, 2 or 3 in a row there where I really punished guys. And I mean, I'm not like trying to hurt them, and then it would go like 2 months and I couldn't find a fight, right? You know, so I think that for a couple of years I was there. Yeah, I do believe that. As to be the top guy, you know, well, you know, they were saying this guy's the top guy, I beat him. This guy's the top guy, I beat him. Oh, that guy's the top guy, I beat him too, you know. And so it was what it was. And at the time, if you put all the fights together back in those eras and someone takes the time to watch them, they'll see that, you know.
Do you
feel about that?
Yeah, man. Hey, man, this is priceless, Sandy. I hope you realize that, man. I love hearing these stories. I love it, man. Look at Kyle's face. We're in cloud 9 right now. Now, okay, so Sandy, like, man, you're a lefty with a right hand the way that you had it. Man, I can't get over that. Is there, out of the top guys, right? Like, for me, I had a couple guys that were just so technical. It was just, if you made one little mistake, it could be the difference, like the difference maker. You know what I mean? Like, I know you laid everyone out, Sandy, but who like you got to name 1 or 2. Who were the guys that were just, you know, if you made any type of mistake, it was that big of a difference?
Well, I mean, for me, it showed. And the guys I fought, like, I didn't respect Patrick Cote, and he pay a price for it, right? You know, I shouldn't have opened up with him, and he's not, especially with how my body was at that point in my career. I don't know. Brash gave it to me one time pretty good. You know, I fought him a lot of times where I gave it to him a few times. We had a lot of draws, but one time it felt he got But I thought a lot of the fights, man, even when you watch them, a lot of them, it's hard to pull a winner out of them. And it's a lot of people are going to choose their winner on who their favorite, and a lot of my fights are even, but you know what? You're going to take a beating, man. You're going to get fucking hurt when you fought me, and it wasn't going to be easy. Even when, like, I was fighting with no shoulders later in my career, right? Like from New York on, it's, I had to have surgery on both my shoulders, and I was too stubborn to get it because I didn't want to miss any time, right? So now you go out there fighting guys, you can't even lift your arms over your head. You know how that goes, right?
Wow.
There's your job,
Yeah.
Right?
A lot of people don't realize, Sandy, just how strong these guys are, and not even including the wear and tear to your knuckles. I'm talking about the grappling. I'm talking about getting body position, holding off that arm so you can wind up. People have no idea the wear and tear that's involved, and it's incredible for the guys that were able to do this job for over 5 years, 10 years. I mean, Sandy, you played for a long time. You played nearly 800 National Hockey League games, my friend, right? And you were always willing to throw down and stick up for your teammates. And I just think that's the most beautiful thing right there. A guy that's willing to go to bat. You know what I mean? Do you find that you have buddies now based on the fact of what you did for them in their careers? Like, do you find you have guys reaching out to you and stuff? Because, man, you did it for quite a long time, my friend.
Well, I keep in touch with a couple of guys. I didn't really let a lot of people right inside. I mean, I let a few people in the gate, but I didn't let a lot of people in my house, right? So, and that's probably why I don't do many of these things. And I just feel I got a time to talk. Anyways, I got a couple of buddies I keep in touch. Like my best buddy in the world, Theo Fleury, man. Me and him we're good buddies together, and I know he dealt with his issues, but when we were in our heyday, we made a good tandem, and I love the guy, and he's one of my best buddies, right? Another guy in Vancouver, Gino Ojic, they're brothers for life. Just can't change that. We've known each other since teenagers, and it's just one of those things, right? You can just feel each other, if you know what I mean, right? It's some of those bonds you make if you make with them in your lifetime. You like to think you can make them with everybody, but it's just not the facts, right? Another guy I bonded hard with in New York was Dale Purington. Me and him, we were just two crazy fuckers having a good time, right? And
He wasn't
had a lot of fun together, and no matter what was going on, we were having a good time and we were laughing, even if we were beating the shit of each other, right?
Were you guys roommates in New York?
Those are a few of the guys that I keep. Yeah. We're roommates in New York. Yeah, we had some good fucking battles there. That's for sure. Yeah, the only two heavyweights in the NHL that are fighting over the remote control and peanut jar in the room, right? That's what we went through. But yeah, so I just like to keep my circle pretty tight, right?
And that's a smart way to go about it, Sandy. And I want to talk about New York because there's some really, really important things that I want to bring up there. But before New York, you made stops in Tampa and Philly. Tampa was cool. Philly was when I was a huge Leaf fan, right? And I just remember, Sandy, you just, man, when you came to Toronto, like it was like all eyes were on you. We were all watching you. Who is this big, huge man on the Flyers just flying around as fast as the top two lines, but as mean as anybody in the meanest street in America, right? What was the experience like in Philly? Did you feel a little bit more pressure being part of a team that used to be called the Broad Street Bullies?
I didn't feel any added pressure playing for Philly at all. I just did what I do, and The fans loved me there anyway because I'm one of those type of players, right? So I think I fit right in, and I felt that right up until the point where Roger Nielsen left, and when he left, it went south for me, and I wanted out of there too. So it was a good departure for both at the time. But when I was there, I felt good about everything except for that last little span. So. But I enjoyed them. They're energy fans, and they got me going, that's for sure.
For the record, and I speak for all of Philadelphia, we would have loved to have you stay there for a very long time.
Well, some things happen that I shouldn't really talk about right now. I'll save those for another thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes, if you look at my career there, I was never one to sit back and just accept things. I got in people's face sometimes, and maybe some people's face that I shouldn't have. But if I thought things weren't right, I'd always stand up for it. Cost me a few moves along the way, but I wouldn't change it for the world. Right? It was right. Even if it is going over a coach's desk, grabbing a coach by the throat, right?
Hey, yeah. Hey, Sandy, you mentioned Roger Nielsen. So you guys are pretty close, you and Roger?
I liked Roger. Roger was honest with me, straight up, right to the point. Didn't beat around the bush. Well, I had an issue with Roger. We had a straight 5 minutes, and he always gave me the truth, even if it wasn't what I wanted to hear. He was truthful with me, and that's why I respected him.
Right on. Now would you say he was a tough guy's coach? And you know what I mean by that, compared to not a tough guy's coach? It was either they were or they weren't. I found Sandy.
Yeah. I would have liked to work with him longer, because I think it would have worked out real good. But I think he's more like he's a player's coach, right? All of his coaching, the players usually always get along with us guys because we like things to go smoothly, right? Our conflict happens on the ice. It shouldn't happen in the room or at the bus or the hotel, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now, Sandy, I'm looking at the trade from the Philadelphia Flyers to the Carolina Hurricanes, right? So you got traded for multiple players, right? And you also and there was also a couple picks thrown in there too. So you obviously were thought of as incredible value in the league, which you absolutely earned, being at the top of the league for toughness, being able to play the game at a very good level. So now, brother, you made the one stop in Carolina, but when you got to Broadway, to New York City, dude, you started playing like you were playing in junior again, my friend. What was the difference for you? Was it Theo by your side? What was it?
No, I guess you could say, a life-changing event, and I kind of changed my life a little bit. To come to terms with that, if I was going to keep living the way I was living, that I wasn't going to play hockey much longer. And I realized I had to put my health first, and I had to start training like it mattered. And, and up until that point, I never hired really a personal trainer or anything, right? So I hired personal trainers, and I got, and as fit as I've ever been in my life, right? Like, I think I went into one camp and I was like 212, like 7% body fat, and
wow,
realized in a hurry I had to gain 10 pounds, right? But I just wanted to show, like, hey, this is what I can be, and I can be this fast guy. But then I went and tried to run Zdeno Chara at that weight, and I just about rattled my skeleton and decided I'd better put 10 pounds. So, that was probably why, like, I took my career a little more serious, and I didn't just look at it as something I did. It was more like a work thing from that point. If you look at my numbers from that point on, I think the last year wasn't that great, but 3 years before that were probably played my best output points wise. And as for fighting, right, it's you can only do what you can do, right? I wouldn't have been able to do both at that point in my hockey life, just because my body was so banged up.
Well,
So
I mean,
that's why the fighting went down later.
Sandy, you're saying that your body, holding up and stuff, but the thing is, brother, is that in those 3 years, it looks like you only missed maybe one game in 3 seasons, Sandy McCarthy. You played 81 games played, 82 games played, 82 games played in an 82 game season, right?
Yeah.
That's real
That
big
was
consistency.
That was because I took it for real, right? And I took my health as, okay, this is what is my tool for working, and I have to make sure my tools work proper. And when I come to realize that, I needed 3 surgeries, right? So I played that 1 year with the injuries, and then I got 2 surgeries. Another surgery somewhere after the next year. Played my last year with a sewn-up body, but it was in one piece, right? You know what I mean?
But you played every game, though, Sandy. Every game.
Yeah, the one game ended because I told the referee it was whatever, because I didn't like his call, and I got a game suspension for abuse of an official. It's 3 years. I missed one game for abuse of an official. Yeah.
Wow. Man, I don't know if there's too many guys that play the role that can even get into all the games in the year. Never mind play 3 straight seasons, not missing a game, Sandy. So, I mean, again, the listeners need to know things like this because it's incredible. And it really is something that's unique and really needs to be talked about, Sandy, because I don't really think that this happened with another player. And so I'm glad that we're talking about this now. Now, you know what the other interesting thing is, Sandy, is you go back, you had the exact same penalty minutes the first 2 seasons in New York, which at this time now, when you're getting close to 200 PIMs, that's a lot of PIMs. Like way back in the day, it used to be 300, but to get close to 200 PIMs is a heck of a lot of PIMs. You're definitely leading your team, and you're probably top 10 in the league, right? So that's a pretty impressive thing too, my friend. Living in New York, was it different than the other cities because it was Broadway? Did you find more star power like in that city?
Well, at that point in my life, I was not interested in star power or city life or anything to do with that, right? So I had 2 young kids at home, and my wife at the time was pregnant with another one. So I did my thing at the rink, and for the most part, it was pretty much home. And at that point in my life, I had no time for the other stuff. It was just a waste of time for me. I had other things I had to deal with, right? So I to feel pressure for the star power, I've always felt, like they say, you make it in New York, you can make it anywhere, right? So always played in the back of my mind there. So, but I don't know. I don't know if I would have been able to. I'll tell you this like this: if I was 20 years old and got drafted by the Rangers and went there and did what I did my first year as I did in Calgary, I don't know what the hell would have happened with my career. I don't know. I would have been the biggest star on earth, or I would have here and been, in a bad place, right? You know what I mean? Because there's stuff going on everywhere around that town, right?
Yeah.
I was where I was through the first few years of my hockey life, and when I did go to New York, I was a little more mature as a human than I was younger, right? So, yeah.
Now, you played with Theo both in Calgary and New York, right?
Yeah, I did.
Of course, sorry, go ahead, Sandy.
No, he's my little buddy, man. We drew past each other when was needed, and I would still do anything for the guy. I wanted to make sure he always felt comfortable on the ice, and he knew it. Right? That's one thing I told everybody I played with. You know what? You play with me, do whatever the fuck you want out here. I got you. And then I had his back, and he could do whatever the fuck he wanted, and I was going to be there to protect him, right?
You guys were a pretty entertaining duo, though, Sandy. Like, I mean, when you think about like the different characters in the NHL, I mean, a lot of the little guys like Theo that have all that energy, but would probably be willing to drop the gloves with anyone in the league type of thing. Like a personality like Theo, is entertaining. But Sandy, as a big player, because you were able to play, because you were getting regular shifts, like on most of the teams that you were on, the entertainment value that you brought was so much more than some of the other tough guys just based on the ice time alone, right? When you were doing things like this on the bench and all that kind of stuff, I mean, that was the first time that I had seen stuff like that. And man, I can't even tell you how many things I took from you, like how many things I tried to copy and mimic and be like Sandy McCarthy and, and be the show pretty much, right? That all just comes natural to you, doesn't it?
I think so. Like, it just, I don't know. I get in the moment and shit happens sometimes, right? You can't express yourself physically. Well, then sometimes it comes out and, chicken call or pointing your finger at your muscle or it's, usually you can settle it on the ice and it doesn't get to that. But if it does, then so be it, right? There's no hard feelings about it. It's just we're trying to get shit going, and my team might need a boost, and whatever I'm trying to do, get in your head, try to embarrass you, right? Trying to embarrass you into fighting me, even if you don't want to,
And that's what you had to do a lot because of your status, right?
Sometimes, and there's other times where I didn't fight, but I would probably go ahead and tell you, just because the way I like to listen to my coaches, that when I didn't want to fight, or if I didn't fight a guy, it's because my coach told me he didn't want me to fight that night. If my coach told me he didn't want me to fight, I would still protect my guys and stuff, but I wasn't going to fight unless I had to, right? I just wanted to be reliable for my coach so that he could put me out there and tell me something and I would do it, right? So he'd know that he had that confidence in me. So it was a lot of times my coach would say, tonight we don't need that. Don't do it. Go play. I go play, right? So there's a few times where guys challenged me and I just said no, and the coach said no. What do you do? Skate away.
Yeah.
Nowadays it's not with the social media, you get roasted for that kind of stuff if you back away and you're supposed to fight. But back then they didn't have it, thank God. So
yeah. It'd be a whole different world if they did, though, eh, Sandy?
I probably would have ate it up in my heyday if it was like this, right?
Yeah.
I'm glad it wasn't, and I'm glad I get to just sit in the sidelines and watch the stuff now. Right? Happy to be there.
Sandy, over the NHL career, in your mind, was there a guy that you think that you matched up with the most? Like, is there a guy that that maybe you've matched up with the most? Like, probably like one of your biggest rivals, a guy that you always kind of, There's probably a lot of them.
I think I fought Ty a bunch of times. I fought Jim McKenzie a bunch of times.
Yeah.
I fought Marty 4 or 5 times. I don't know.
McSorley.
Yeah, we had some really good fights, man.
Really
good. Like Marty, God bless his soul, he doesn't have the power to break a piece of glass, but man, he can fight forever. I remember there's at least 2 of the 4 fights we fought where I was just so exhausted by the end of them, right? But I'm just thankful that he didn't have big meat hooks and he couldn't hit as hard as some guys did. So you could take a couple of those ones late in the fight, and they're not gonna put you out, right? Fuck, he's a tough guy, man. It's tough to fight him.
So McSorley had the best endurance out of all the big boys, you think?
McSorley was always real tough. Darren Langdon had probably the best endurance I've seen in a fighter. Darren Langdon, man, he was like, he'd go and go and go and go and go, and he always seemed to counterpunch you. And he was always technically sound, and you had to be on your game fighting him, or you're going to leave with a bloody lip, right? So you knew it was going to be a technical fight. And for me, later in my career, it was kind of better because I couldn't get wide open anymore, right? I could throw my shoulders out. So fighting him later in my career was you had to be technically sound because he wasn't a huge guy, but man, he was just, he'd always be right in there. Like 2-minute fights. He's got to be the king of 2-minute fights. Got to be.
I heard that he was the best technical, like in that era, right? So I'm hearing Langdon technical, now McSorley endurance, but I'm telling you,
Yeah.
McCarthy overall.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm sure a lot of people made arguments. I know there was a stretch. There was a stretch where I was there for sure, right? You know, being a young kid coming from where I came from, just to get to the top of anything, even if it's for a day, right? To me, it was a huge accomplishment. I loved every minute of that shit. I couldn't do it again, man. I couldn't do it again. It was you
loved it though, Sandy?
Courage, right? You know what I mean? What's that?
I said you loved it though, right?
Well, yeah, I did, but there's also this thing that and anybody who's honest is going to tell you fear brings courage, right? And you find what you're really made of when you test a little bit of fear. And if you don't say you didn't have a little bit of fear before every one of those fights, you're just stupid. Because that's what brings the best of you out, is just that uncertainty. Okay, well, if I don't want to get embarrassed in front of these 20,000 people or 15,000 people, I'm going to do whatever I got to do here. Yeah, that's how I knew that I was ready. If I had a little quiver in my backbone, I was like, okay, this is going to be a good one, right? And for me, a good one didn't mean me beating the shit out of somebody and knocking them out. Or to me, a good fight was like, we're going toe to toe. We go for a minute and a half. We both throw 60 punches, and at the end of the fight, you're like, "Oh, he won! No, he won! No, he won! No, he." Those are the best fights. The whole doesn't matter what rank you're in. The building explodes. Both benches explode. Right? You gain a whole ton of respect from the whole rink after a good brawl like that. And those are the ones I like the best. But nobody wants to get hurt either. But that's usually what it happens, is at the end of those ones. But thank God it didn't for me.
Now, Sandy, I got to ask you this, brother, because it's just so appropriate to ask a gentleman like yourself that played for so long in the NHL doing this role. Do you find that there was no help for the tough guys? Do you find that there was no one just taking care of the guys doing the role, overseeing the guys? Sandy, if you think about all the coaches, man, that are involved in the NHL and AHL teams, right? The regular coaching staff, you got the special teams coaches, face-off coaches, goalie coaches, strength and conditioning coaches, all these coaches of how to stretch. But there was 2 tough guys, Sandy, sometimes 3 on every NHL roster. And it seemed like there was no help for these guys. There was no help for you this whole time. Like, do you agree kind of with that? Or was there on some of the teams? Like I'm really trying to pick some of the guys' brains, like, with this topic.
Yeah, I kind of get what you're going at. I understand what you're saying with this. And, I guess in the locker room, we were the guy that guys went to. But for us, for me, I had a couple strong structure points in my life that I would reach out to, meaning a couple strong people in my life. And so I probably just dealt with that stuff on my own, and maybe it would have been better if they did have guys there for you, but they never did before, and they never did as long as I played, so I never thought much about it. But it would have been nice to have a coach to go say, hey, could I have done something different in this brawl, or could I have done something this in this forecheck, or this? It would have been good to have that. But some of the coaches didn't have any experience in the style of hockey I played. One of the coaches I really liked playing for, assistant coach, is Terry O'Reilly. He was one of my idols when I was a kid. I loved watching him play. Loved watching him play, man. I didn't know if he was going to beat you up or score on you, right? And that's one of the things I loved about his style. Right? No, I was in New York. He was
He was coaching in New York. Right on.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. So that was he was a good one. He always had an ear for me, and we would always talk, and I could be honest with him. And it never got back to me through another coach, right? If you know what I mean. Like some guys just go right to the coach's office with yours. Sometimes you need to just take them and just hear them, right?
So now, just sticking with this topic a little bit, like you're seeing all the guys with the lawsuits, the guys with the concussions, the guys that like God rest their souls have actually passed for various different reasons, but we're all have something in common, and that's the game of hockey, right? So now, Sandy, when I meant a guy like looking over the tougher players, I also felt that there was ways that the NHL could have avoided these problems. Like, what if there was like an insurance that kicked in? Once Sandy McCarthy got his 5th fighting major, maybe it was his 10th fighting major, he now qualifies for a special insurance because this is a player that's risking his body more than the other players. There could have been something in place, Sandy, that just kind of protected the guys that had to do the role. We were the fan favorite, Sandy. You were the fan favorite every team you went to. Look at Philly, man. You sold tickets. You marketed the team. I just find that the players that did the role were a little bit different and should have been protected a little bit better, should have been taken care of a little bit better, because only guys like Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux were guys that could get every single person in the arena off their bums other than the tough guys.
Yeah, well, you got a point with that, and it might have been good back in our day, and I don't know what the fight counts are on guys today, or if that would work for them, but it would have been nice to have something like that. You know what I mean? I have no idea what the fights are per year for guys nowadays. So
be lucky if somebody has 4.
Maybe for these guys moving forward. What's that?
That you'd be lucky if somebody nowadays has 4 or 5. That's about max.
No, really?
Okay. Yeah, I think the top guys on each team have about 4, 5, 6 fighting majors, right, Kyle?
Not even that, just the top guys in the league.
Guys in the league?
There was multiple teams last year that had 4 guys get into one fight, and that was it.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I was told. See, Sandy, like I was told that fighting was going up a little bit and stuff at parts in the year. What wasn't it though, Kyle?
Yeah, no, fighting overall went up last year.
Yeah.
But as per like back in the day, you had guys like Sandy McCarthy and yourself that would get into 30 fights in 1 year. That's one thing. But nowadays, it's like one guy gets into a fight, and the next game, somebody else might get into a fight, and then it's 30, 40 games before you might see another fight. It's not like there's a defined role anymore for it.
Now, Sandy, I know that you've made the jump to coaching, right? When you stopped playing. Now, was that always kind of a passion and interest of yours, or did you pick it up like later in life?
Well, I don't know if it was a passion for me or not, but when I finished playing hockey, I got into another business for a few years, and probably did that. I bought a marina and owned and operated that for about 12 years, and during the last couple of years of it, I was reassessing what I was doing and realized that I was neglecting a passion in my life, and understanding why that I wasn't happy in the last couple of years, and it's because I was neglecting the thing that I never neglected in my life, was hockey, right? So I started coaching about 10 years ago and at the junior level, and it gives you that feeling, right? If you can't play, they say refereeing's the next closest. If you can't ref, well, coach is the next thing, right? You know what I mean? So I enjoy it. I'm passionate about the game still. There's still a lot of things about the game that haven't changed, and there are a bunch of things that have. But I, over the past 10 years, also ran a youth fitness program here for athletes. So I'm kind of up to date on some of the training techniques, and I tried to relay all that stuff on my junior teams. And they see some of the stuff, and they're like, "Well, this is why are we doing this? I just do it. You'll see why later, right? Just do the stuff." Like a little bit unorthodox with some things, but it's like hockey. You get in some unorthodox positions sometimes, and if you're used to being in that position, your likelihood to strain or tear a muscle is limited, right? So working with the kids gives me some pride and some joy. So that's why I enjoy coaching.
Oh yeah, and these kids, like they know exactly the way that you played, right, and how hard you played. Like, or do you have to remind them sometimes?
Well, a lot of people just see what they see online about me, right? They don't do any research and understand that, I have a passion for the game and a love for the game. And, because I played in the NHL and had to fight to stay, it doesn't mean I wasn't a good player either, right? And sometimes you have to reinforce to the kids, go look up my Q stats and then see what you get from that, right? And usually they come back and they're saying, scored 39 goals one year. I'm like, yeah, well, there wasn't a misprint. I think they printed it right, So, and then they kind of get an eye opener. And, there's some stuff that you don't lose in the game. And being on the ice every day with the team, you handling pucks and moving pucks around. And as well as I do, when someone grabs a puck and knows what they're doing with it, you can see, right?
Yeah.
And when someone grabs a puck and doesn't know what they're doing with it, you can also see. So it doesn't take long with my players to understand that I know what I'm doing with it and I know what I'm talking about with the guys.
Right on.
For me, I'm kind of selfish with it because I get joy and happiness out of it, right? And I know I do it because I like guiding these young kids and giving them truth when they play junior A hockey, and be good or bad, I give them truth, right? So I deal with the kids a little bit different than I got dealt with as a player, but I think that's the way the game is leaning anyway. So.
Yes, of course. What's your connection to the Maritimes, Sandy?
Well, I live in New Brunswick, and I live about 20 minutes from where my dad grew up. Oh. So the reason I came out here was my dad was a big fan of the junior A hockey team here, and I just started coaching a few years before, and they were in need of some help to finish the season out. At that time, my dad's health wasn't great, so I just made a decision there. Okay, I'm making a change, and I'm going to go out here, and I'm going to see what the Maritimes bring me. I used to visit out this way every summer as a kid, right, to relatives, so I knew what it was like. When I got out here and saw the pace of life, it was like, I ain't going back. I'm not going back to Ontario. No way, not a chance. It's just slower pace of life, and you just get to live a little bit at your own pace, let's say.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, the kids on your junior team are pretty lucky. So you're telling me that you're giving them these workout programs, these pro player workout programs, letting them know what it really takes to get to the next level. Is this a team where most of the players are going major junior, or a lot of them getting the school packages with the NCAA and CIAU?
Well, there's a good spread of options for the kids that play junior A out here. Some of them try for the East Coast League, the SJ, right? Some of them are looking to go NCAA D1 or D3. Some of the kids are just coming back for one last year junior before they're off to CIS, and
yeah.
But let's say last year I had 3 guys go to Canadian University and 1 guy tried. So that was pretty good out of the 8 20-year-olds we had. So I just try to prepare them, give them a heads up, tell them, like, don't take stuff for granted. Do the work if you want the details in the end of the day, right? Finish your workouts, do an extra set, right? Because nobody next to you is doing an extra set, right? Push yourself harder. You're sweating, well, you're not sweating hard enough. Push yourself harder, right? You know what I mean? And And then on top of that, with my mistakes with my injuries, I work really closely with the kids, and I'm very cautious. Any of them are banged up, I make them take time off, and maybe I'm a little strict with that, but I just don't want them to be banged up after, because I know what it means to take the rest at the time, and when you don't take that rest, you pay the price later in life, right? So just try to share some experiences with them, right?
Well, I mean, it's priceless experiences that you're sharing with them, and like I know that they're benefiting from it so much, and I know that if I was working out and I was dogging it a little bit because I was tired, and big Sandy McCarthy's behind me saying, "Sweat more, work harder." You better believe, Sandy, I'm gonna get that. I'm going quick, man, because I'm not gonna have Sandy McCarthy have to ask me twice, right? So, I'm sure your players are listening to you.
You might be surprised, though. I'm pretty calm and I don't yell too much. That's one of the things that I've said that I wouldn't do. Is I'm not going to be little kids. I'm not going to yell in your face. If I can't talk to you and have a conversation with you like a young man, and we don't get results, well, the next time we're going to have another conversation, and then the next time I'm not going to get mad. But there is going to be consequences, right? Like not playing games or watching games from the stands, but I don't think yelling and screaming is the way to do it, or the way to get the best out of the kids nowadays. Got to work with it and understand what they know and what they like. Try to build with what they have. Can't change them, right? They're already 16 to 20 years old. Like, you can show them better habits, but you're not going to change the core what they are at that age. Right? Their strengths and make them really strong with that.
Exactly. All I gotta say, Sandy, is I would really like to know: does Sandy McCarthy have interests of coaching in the National Hockey League, or is this a hometown building type thing?
I don't know, man. I just it is what it is right now. I was in Hamilton there. They've a great little town, a great ownership group of guys, all ex-players. So it's like it's a locker room talk in the office every day. So I don't know. I'm pretty happy with helping the kids out that come through that program, and trying to give them a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of a step up for when they step in to a higher level. So I don't know. I couldn't tell you right now. I don't have any inspirations of doing that right now. I'm happy with what's going on here, and that's where I'll be until other things change. Right now, this year, I'm not going to be on the bench. I'm just going to help the team from home, just because of some other shit going on. But still be part of it from here, and so you build the bonds with those kids, and they last a lifetime, right? I got kids that I've coached 10 years ago that I still talk to. And when I see a message come in from a kid that I met 10 years ago for 7 months of a year, and 10 years ago he's still thinking about me, it's, I did what I had to do. I made an impact on the kid if he's still, if I'm still on his mind, right? You know what I mean? So those are the things that give me joy with the game now, right?
100%, Sandy. And it puts a smile on my face, like, to hear things like that, Sandy, because I can guarantee you, buddy, you had a huge impact on these kids. They're calling you 10 years later, buddy. Trust me, you did a really good job. By the sounds of it, Sandy, I mean, I feel like I'm looking at one of the fiercest warriors to ever play in the National Hockey League that sounds like a university professor. Because that's what you sound like, Sandy. You sound like the most educated man that I know right now, right? So I'm very impressed, my friend.
That's a good one.
I'm being serious, dude.
Mustache turned up nice for you, eh? The little spectacles down, but I gotta wear them now. I can't see any.
Sandy, I'm telling you, buddy.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. That's a nice compliment. I've always had a hard time accepting compliments. It's been one thing me, I always give a compliment back than just saying thank you. And it's something I still try to work on every day. But to me, I feel it's something that's made me strive to get better and better and better and better, is to not accept that good news, not be happy with someone saying, oh, you've done this well, right? Oh, you should be proud of yourself. Well, you know what? In my head, when someone says that to me, I'm like, shut the fuck up. You're jinxing me, right? You know, just want to keep going. Like, leave me alone.
Yeah. No, I totally hear what you're saying, man. I'm just happy because you look like you're content, Sandy. It looks like you, whenever anything needs to be addressed in your life or in the life of people around you, it looks like you're taking care of it, man. Because I'm telling you, man, you got your head on your shoulders right now. And I wish that I went through a junior program that you were leading, because I know that I would get a huge head start, just like all the players in your program get by being involved with your program. So hats off to you with that one, buddy, because you're doing a really good job with that. I know that when you first started the coaching, that you guys, well, I forget the name of the junior team that it was, that you guys made it to pretty much the Royal Bank Cup almost right away. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Like it's results that are results that are good results when it comes to you, man. So like I said, that's incredible stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun being involved with it again, right? You know, it's everybody's got to have some type of meaning going on, right? And the hardest thing in life is when you have a goal and you set your goal. Now you've reached your goal, you've got there. Now what? Now what are you gonna do? Right? Now what are you gonna do? Like, okay, it's time to reset goals, and you know what? Sometimes it takes a few years to reset that goal. And for me, I guess my reset was my time working at the marina. And then when I did reset, my goal was to try and help as many kids and give them an honest path through hockey as I can, right? And hopefully I get to do that for many years.
Yes, buddy. And Sandy, I know we've gone over the time limit, and I appreciate you sharing these stories, because dude, the insight that you gave as the NHL's top heavyweight for multiple seasons, man, I'm telling you, the listeners haven't really heard from that type of a character before, right? So we appreciate you telling the stories, buddy. And we also appreciate the depth that you got into with it too, man, and talking about your family, the fact that you guys, the Golden Glove boxers in your family with your brothers and your father. I mean, that's a strong connection to have, man. And now I've finally figured out where you get that crazy toughness from, Sandy McCarthy. Your boxing background, I find that incredible, man. I want to thank you for sharing all of that stuff.
You know, buddy, it was a pleasure to be on the show, man. That's like I said, you popped my cherry here, so I hope it works out well. And if you ever want to talk more, just fighting, just let's do it, right? You know, a lot of people always ask me about the Probert fight, right? What happened in that fight? Well, nobody knows this, but I knocked that man out on his feet, and I could see the whites of his eyes when I hit him with an uppercut. And if you watch the fight, you'll see right at the end of the fight, I hit him with a solid uppercut. God bless his soul. I love the guy because he was one of my idols too. But when I looked him in the eyes, all I saw was white. And then he tried to headbutt me, right? You know, at the end of it. But, you know, we can talk more about that another time if you want.
Hey, we'll talk about that anytime.
Some of the paths we went down to on this show. Some of the paths we went down on this show was stuff, I don't know, I guess it needed to come out. And there's a lot of people asked me how I got to where I was and what got me there. And you know, banging around, being a rough, tumble kid that wasn't afraid of anything, right? You know, and having an older brother that was strong as a beast. So that's what made me strong. So
yes, Andy. No, it's incredible. But listen, buddy. First off, like this talk of future stuff, I'm really excited. I don't know about you, Kyle, but let's get this out of the way right now. Sandy McCarthy, Are you coming back for a part 2 so we can get more in depth with not only the Probert fight, but some other battles as well as other stories? Sandy McCarthy, are you coming back?
Yeah, I'll be back. You let me know. Let me know when you want me back. My schedule's pretty open right now since I'm not working with the team, so you can catch me in between home improvements, right?
Man, I'll tell you one thing, Sandy. It was such a pleasure, buddy. It's such an honor to have you on. I had so much fun tonight, buddy. Kyle, this is incredible stuff, eh?
Thanks again, Sandy, for coming on, man. You were always an idol to me. I really wanted you to stay in Philly just a little bit longer because I look forward to every game watching you play.
We're gonna have a special episode, Sandy, that we're gonna be inviting you back with some very interesting topics, buddy. So I'm really looking forward to having you back. I also want to thank the listeners for tuning in to another episode of the Sheriff Guys featuring very, very special guest, Big Sandy McCarthy. Thank you so much, my friend. And I hope you have an incredible night. Woo!